Good afternoon and welcome to the North 65 Chamber of Commerce monthly meeting. I'm Melissa Bettendorf. I'm the Executive Director, and I'm joined by Assistant Executive Director Vanessa Hansel, who will be co-facilitating today's meeting with me. You're encouraged to put your questions and comments in the chat as we move along, or ask them by unmuting during the Q&A session. And without further ado, I'd love to introduce our presenter today, Dr. Mike Kiefer. Dr. Mike is a professional speaker, trainer, and author with PowerMind Training, Anoka Ramsey Community College, and Anoka Technical College. He's been a partner with the Minnesota State College System for over 20 years. He's joining us today to talk about keeping everyone safe and how to prepare your work, team, and your family for active threats. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Mike.
All right, folks. Thank you very much for having me do a presentation for you. And as Melissa said, I am a contractor with Anoka College, and I do a wide variety of topics, leadership topics and team building topics and personality styles and conflict resolution, project management, etc. Been doing this for 25 plus years, working a lot with colleges and universities throughout the Midwest, as well as government agencies and manufacturing facilities, mostly in the Midwest. And I was asked a number of years ago to do a research project on active threats in organizations and in public. So I spent a number of years researching events, mainly in the United States, and then published a lot of that information in a book, and then also started obviously speaking and presenting on this topic to high school students, teachers, college students, college professors, as well as companies and organizations. So I am going to switch to the PowerPoint presentation, and I'm going to run through my PowerPoints, and you are welcome to have a copy of my PowerPoints. Vanessa has the PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to do for you today. And if you would like those PowerPoints to use yourself or in your organization, you can get them from Vanessa and she can send those to you. And you're welcome to use my information. I'm happy to have you use any of the information that I present today to help your families and to help your coworkers, etc. So feel free to use those as you like. So I'll switch to the PowerPoints. I'll share my screen. I'll go through my PowerPoints and then I'll stop the screen share. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer your questions. So if you want to load questions as I go into the chat, feel free to do that. And Vanessa volunteered to kind of monitor the chat questions. So feel free to put any questions you might have as I go in the chat. I might not answer them immediately as soon as you put them in the chat, but she'll have a running tally of those so we can look at those towards the end. And then obviously, if you have any live questions, feel free to ask those at the end as well. Okay, I'll switch over to the PowerPoints here. All right, so this is the title of my presentation on active threats, mainly talking about prevention and preparation. And this is a little bit of a snapshot of what I would do for organizations. My standard presentation is 2 half days, but I wanted to give you folks some idea of why I started doing this training, a little bit more on my background, and then what you would kind of see in a full day program or 2 half days. So my background, for those of you that are not familiar with me, is I have a Bachelor of Science degree in genetic engineering and a Master of Science degree in genetic engineering from Texas A&M, PhD in behavioral psychology from Addison University. I started a research project called the PowerMind Project, and I worked on that for 10 years, from 1986 to 1996. And that was a research project studying the personality traits, natural talents, and psychological profiles of peak performers. We looked at professional athletes, scientists, inventors, business leaders, entrepreneurs, and self-made millionaires to try and study genetic traits and natural talents on what caused them to be a peak performer versus the average person. And I published that information in the form of PowerMind System series of books in 1996, and that basically launched my professional speaking career. I traveled around the country 96, 97, 98, doing presentations and motivational keynotes, talking with people about goal setting, determining your natural talents, aligning your career with your talents, and performance enhancing psychological techniques. So I did that, and then evolved into a professional trainer, building workshops, designing and delivering workshops for companies and organizations, supervisory and management training. And as I said, about 6 years ago, I started researching these active shooter incidents and workplace violence incidents to try and see if we could come up with some information to help corporations, organizations, and families be safer. So as a trainer in doing this type of topic, you have to have a different mindset versus teaching leadership training or doing a motivational presentation or doing presentations on conflict resolution. So this is a topic that does require blunt language. I understand that it's a heavy topic and a lot of people don't want to address it or don't want to talk about it. And that causes a lot of fear and panic. And if a person is scared and afraid, they cannot learn about a topic. So my goal is to teach life-saving tips and techniques. I'm not a grief counselor, and I'm also not trying to scare people. I mean, I'm hopeful that, you know, one tip can save a person's life. So maybe that tip you'll gain in today's presentation. And nothing guarantees a person's safety. The goal is always to improve your chances. As a learner or an audience member in your shoes, you should be open to ideas to protect yourself and your kids. So you always need to make your own decisions on what you're comfortable doing or think is right. I'm just offering ideas. So, you know, nobody's required to do anything that I say. I'm just, you know, putting out advice from my research. If it makes sense to you and it seems reasonable, then go ahead and adopt it. If it, you know, doesn't seem reasonable or it's not comfortable for you, then, you know, don't worry about it. Just leave it on the table. I'm just presenting options for you to think about. So my training is designed for average people. It is civilian training for just the average person and students, whether they be high school or college students. So I'm not affiliated with law enforcement. That type of training is very different. And, you know, my audiences are not law enforcement officers or military. They have a whole different mindset and training regime. I'm just working with average people, trying to give them tips and pointers. So I don't do any firearm training, concealed carry permit stuff. That's not my area of expertise, and that's not what my training is about. So why do training for average people? Because the average person has no idea what to do. They tend to freeze and get hurt or follow the mob of panicking people. That's what the research shows. The average person has no training, thus they have no idea what to do. So I'm trying to counteract that and give you some ideas on what to do. And also, as I said before, the average person is scared to talk about this subject in any detail, so they can't learn anything to protect themselves. They tend to have a fear of learning barrier. So again, we'll try and break that down today. So why non-firearm training? You can go to a class and learn about guns, but the average person is not going to do that. They're scared of them. They don't want to mess with them. And you do not need to have that. The average person can survive an active threat without a gun. So my training designed to be less scary than law enforcement training. It's not like this, what you see in the pictures here. And in fact, most law enforcement agencies have stopped doing this type of training. So it's not really being done currently in the United States with any type of popularity. Understanding active threats and what to do to protect yourself. Active threats occur everywhere. It's not just in schools or in workplaces. In fact, if you look at the news, there are all kinds of issues going on right now at fast food places. People are being screamed at, things are being thrown at them at McDonald's drive-throughs and at Chick-fil-A's and at Taco Bell's. It seems to be rampant that people are just escalating situations in public. They're just stressed out and they just freak out. In fact, my wife and I were at a Chipotle 2 weeks ago, and the woman ahead of us didn't get her order in time, or it was incorrect, and she took everything out of the bag. This is in Burnsville, Minnesota. She took everything out of the bag and threw it at all the workers, and then walked out. And then the guy behind her, he got up there and his order wasn't right either, and he just threw the bag on the floor and walked out. And then the manager gave my wife and I our meal for free. So I don't know if he thought we were next in line to wig out or what, but he said, hey, you guys have been patient and quiet. So he said, I'm just going to give you your meal for free. And my wife was kind of shocked at that. She's like, what? Why are these people like throwing stuff all over the place because their order isn't right? I mean, they offered to remake it. So, and then I started looking at this on different news reports throughout the country, and this is a fairly common practice now. People freaking out at fast food restaurants and other restaurants if their food isn't made properly or something's wrong. They just throw things. All right, so prevention tips. A lot of people think that like little kids can't do anything, but little kids are good listeners and they see what other people are doing. So if you see something, you should encourage people to say something. If somebody has a weapon, or you see a text or a post on social media, different website searches, if you got little kids, I would kind of monitor what types of things they're searching for and what kind of clubs they might be joining on the internet. You should talk about it with your family and your coworkers. A key is angry, disgruntled, terminated employees. And a lot of times when someone loses their job in the organization, they will actually make verbal threats and yell at HR staff and people that are in the room. Actually, a lot of my business comes from that. HR people calling me up saying, hey, we'd like to do some of your training at our organization because we had to terminate 2 people and they threatened their coworkers, their supervisors, the HR staff on their way out. So social media is also very key. People that intend to do something violent do not tend to keep it secret. You would think they would keep it secret, but they don't. They want to be famous. They post different journals and manifestos on Facebook. They post videos on Twitter and on Instagram. So they tend to be active on social media and not secretive at all. Be aware everywhere you go of exits, front doors, windows, and places to escape or get out. I am a big proponent of removing yourself from the situation. So not standing there and fighting with someone or screaming, just exiting, just get out of the situation. When you go to different public places, be aware of the front doors. People that are tending to, and this is not always the case, but in most cases, people that are intending to do something violent tend to enter the front door. So I would stay away from the front doors, but be able to watch the front door. So if you're sitting in a restaurant, be able to see where that front door is. If you see any commotion, if you see any yelling or screaming, you can kind of monitor that and see what's happening at the front door. And then also position yourself near an exit. If there's a side door or the kitchen where you can go through the kitchen to get out, I would tend to position myself there. So not sitting near the front door, but being able to see the front door with you and your friends near an exit so you can get out of the place quickly. Some things that you could potentially carry if you wanted to carry something, say like a person's nervous about, a parking garage or carjacking or something like that. I usually recommend something handheld, a small taser or pepper spray. And I'm a big proponent of the pepper spray. Now, a couple things on pepper spray that you need to be aware of. Most people aren't, terrified to carry pepper spray. It's not like carrying a gun or something like that. But some things to be aware of in regard to pepper spray is I would not recommend buying the $3 pepper spray canister that's in the bin at Walmart on the way out. Okay. Those tend to be very low quality. They tend to be not effective. There's no date on them when they've expired. So I wouldn't buy cheap stuff for personal protection. This is what I would recommend. There's an organization, a company called Saber Red, and you can buy this online. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it on eBay. It's readily available online. Saber Red is the company. It is used by law enforcement in over half of the states in the United States, and it has an expiration date on the canister, so you know when it's no good. Now, there's a couple things about pepper spray you should be aware of, and that is there's actually 3 formats of pepper spray. There's a gas that you spray, and obviously it sprays out a gas. This you have to be very careful of because you'll gas yourself if you don't run away. So with the gas pepper spray, you have to spray it at or near the person, and then you need to hold your breath and run. Otherwise, you're going to inhale the gas. So a lot of times I don't recommend the gas format. I recommend the gel. And the gel format comes out just like silly string. So you don't need to buy 10 canisters of gel pepper spray. You can buy 3 or 4 canisters of silly string and practice with that. So a lot of times when I go into an organization, I don't bring 20 cans of gel pepper spray. I'll bring 10 cans of silly string because it comes out about the same speed and the same type of stream. And people can practice with the gel with like silly string. So you don't want to spray the pepper spray for the first time in your life when you're in a threat situation. you would like to have had some practice beforehand to make sure you know how to operate it and make sure you know how it works. So the gel format is what I would recommend. It also goes further, goes about 10 to 20 feet with a gel. The gas only goes about 2 to 3 feet. And then there's another format called foam. And foam is similar to the gel, but it's expanding foam. So once it gets on the person, it expands like expanding foam. And that has a shorter range too, about 6 feet. Okay. So anyway, 3 different formats of pepper spray. I would recommend Saber Red as the brand because it is expiration dated. And personally, I would recommend the gel format because then you're not going to gas yourself and inhale it if you spray it. Other things to keep for close quarters, again, parking lot situation, jogging out in the park. You might be concerned about somebody coming out of the bushes or coming up from behind. These are just little things you can put on your keychains. The one on the upper right is called a safety cat. And you would basically put your 2 fingers through the eye holes and then those prongs stick out. And anything to increase your strike force. So the safety cats, you can get those in metal or plastic, hard plastic. Your car keys, if you have car keys, put them in your hand like that. It's better than nothing. The bottom right, those are cat claws, and that's another handheld device. They cost about $25, $30. And by the way, the pepper spray is about $25 to $40. So it's not super expensive. It's not like you got to spend $100, $200. All of these things are under $50, many of them under $30. And then also even a pair of scissors. If you got a pair of scissors at your work desk or, in your purse, pair of scissors can be used as a handheld device as well. Concept of sheltering in place, if that's what you might do. If the door does not have a lock on it, you can use a belt or a scarf, wrap it around the doorknob, and then hold the door shut. And you always sit to the side of the door, so don't be standing. Lots of times a person will shoot through the walls or shoot through the door. So you don't want to be standing up. You want to lower yourself. So sit down, always be to the sides of doors. Don't sit in front of the door to try and block the door. Put other things in front of the door and then you be to the side of the door. You never want to be in the line of sight of the door. So always be to the sides. Stay away from doors, also stay away from windows, and stay away from the line of sight of doors and windows and stay low. Also, fire extinguishers are excellent handheld devices, protection devices. Most organizations have a fire extinguisher on the walls or multiple fire extinguishers. Those can be used as well, and it's just basically a spray and run. So nobody's expecting to get sprayed with a fire extinguisher, but again, you also need to know how to operate the fire extinguisher. Can't be your first time operating the fire extinguisher at work. Scissors, as I mentioned before, paperweights, staplers, screwdrivers, any type of tool, hammer, pen, those can all be used as handhelds. What about your kids? Cell phone is number one. Child abductions have been cut by 75% with the popularity of kids having cell phones. So a cell phone is an awesome, protective safety device for your child to have. When my kids were little, they had to stand at a bus stop, and I live in Farmington, and the bus stop kind of out in the country where we had to take them, and not many people around there. First thing I got them before they became super popular was a cell phone. I said, have that cell phone out so that anybody driving by can see that your kid has a cell phone. They know how to operate the cameras, the videos, the recording. Cell phone is a great safety tool for kids to prevent child abductions. Bulletproof backpacks and bulletproof inserts can be purchased if your child already has a backpack. You can get different types of inserts to slide in the back. They also sell different types of hoodies and jackets. These are getting into a little more expensive, but still usually $200 or less. And then always honest communication with your kids. Make sure that, you know, your kids are not afraid to tell you about what they see or what they hear in school from their friends or from other people. Because again, kids are watching that social media and they don't always tell their parents what they see and what they hear, but encourage them to talk to you about these types of things. What about your home? How can you make your house or apartment not a target for robbers or for home invasion? Number one, top of the list, is a barking dog. Studies after studies have shown that if somebody's snooping around your house and they hear a barking dog, they don't go in, they move on. So a barking dog, or electronically, the sound of a barking dog, people just tend to not go in a house with barking dogs. Okay. Visible cameras. So if you have a camera system outside your house, the Ring doorbell, excellent, get one. And then this one I have on the lower left is about $350 on Amazon. My niece bought that. She lives by herself, and she bought that for her home. She actually bought 2 extra cameras. She's got 6 cameras, put them up herself outside her house, and she can watch each one of these cameras remotely on her cell phone. So they're all wirelessly connected to her cell phone. So she can be at work and see what all 6 of those cameras see on her cell phone. So excellent surveillance systems for your home that I feel are fairly cheap. And if people see cameras all over your house, they tend to not want to go into that either. But more importantly, you can monitor those cameras with your cell phone. So that's pretty cool, I think. And then also just signage, just a security sign that says it's monitored with video surveillance, or, you know, a security system. And then also lighting at night, the lower right, that house is all lit up. People don't tend to want to break into a house when there's lights all over the house. Okay. So just some basics on home safety there. Key survival tips: grab a weapon or improvise and run. Okay, you usually have 5 seconds or less. So when I talk about the weapon, I'm talking about your pepper spray, you know, pair of scissors, whatever, screwdriver, whatever's available. Stash your phone. I like people to have their phone as well. So if you got your phone in one hand, you know, you want to have your other hand free, or you want to free your phone hand. And then my daughters told me this when they were teenagers. They said, we just stash our phone in our bra or in our sports bra. Then we got it with us and we got both hands free. So that tip actually came from my daughters. I don't have a lot of personal experience with that one. Again, don't be behind a door, be to the side of the doors. And very important, this one, out of everything I tell you, I want you to remember this one. If law enforcement arrives, get everything out of your hands, because law enforcement is trained to watch everybody's hands. And in a panic situation, they may not know the difference between, you know, a pepper spray and some type of weapon, even your phone and some type of weapon. So certainly not scissors, screwdriver, hammer. If law enforcement is on the scene, get everything out of your hands. because that's what they're looking at. That's what they're trained to look at. So you want your hands open, you want your hands free, because law enforcement is checking that, and that's what they're after. They see something in somebody's hand, high stress situation, that's what they're going to shoot at. So you want your hands open and free when law enforcement is there. So drop whatever you got in your hands, or stow it in your pocket or whatever. So be very careful of that, because law enforcement, they watch a person's hands. Okay, so a lot of the training that I do is on site. We do timed escape drills. So I'll get groups of people and we'll time how long it takes to get 30, 40, 50 people out of a building going out the exits. And it's very interesting to see when we start the timer, how a group of 30 or 40 employees has no idea how to get out of their own building. They all run to the front door. And that's not where you want to go. You want to go to the side exits, you want to go to the rear exits, loading docks, etc. So first escape drill, everybody runs to the front door. That's the exact wrong thing to do usually. Second drill, people are looking for the side doors and the back doors. And then the third time we do a timed drill, everybody's got it down. So again, you know, people say, well, I know how to get out of my building. It's like in a timed high stress situation, you can't go running to the front door. That's usually where the problem area is. But 3 timed drills, people usually got it down, and I do it in groups of like 20 or 30 people. Building safety assessments. A lot of times there are low cost things people can do to make their building more safe, like the cameras, like the signage, etc. Managers should be trained in de-escalation techniques so that they don't upset their staff, their employees. And then obviously a lot of the training can be done via Zoom. And also barricade building, how to shelter in place, is something that most people don't practice on the work site. And after 2 or 3 drills, they have that down. So the drills are all designed to prepare a person so that they know what to do, and they're not panicking and scared and just following the mob up to the front door, usually where the incident is taking place. Okay. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and if anybody has any questions or there's anything in the chat, I'd be happy to answer anything. Home safety, kids safety, school safety, building safety, personal safety, anything.
I have a question.
Sure, Kristen, go ahead.
Do you know what the rules are regarding travel with any self-defense items like pepper spray? Are you allowed to go through an airport or travel somewhere with that?
No, you cannot carry pepper spray on an airplane. You cannot carry a taser or electronic stun device on an airplane. You can carry your car keys, and you can carry a pen. So usually when I travel on airplanes, can't see this very well. This is just a plastic pen, but I have a stainless steel pen that I carry in my pocket when I travel on airplanes. It's not something that's necessarily going to be, you know, a takedown type thing, but it's better than nothing. But you're pretty restricted on an airplane. I would say if you show up at the airport and you hand the TSA a taser or pepper spray, you're probably going to get detained for a little while.
Probably.
So yeah, that'd be a no-go. But I've traveled with a stainless steel pen in my pocket, you know, for 25 years, and nobody's ever questioned my pen or my car keys. So yeah.
Thank you.
Also on that note, Kristen, I'll mention this. In Minnesota, just for general carry, in Minnesota, it is legal for anyone 16 years or older to carry pepper spray, as long as they're not a felon. So if you have a son or a daughter, and not at school, but you know, perhaps in their car or whatever. So if they're under 16, they're not allowed to have pepper spray on them. So if you got 8, 10, 12, 13-year-old, they can't have pepper spray. And then it's 18 years old for electronic stun device. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Any other questions? Incidents in Minnesota, Chipotle, movie theater. Not meaning to scare everybody. So it's like, oh man, I listened to this guy talk. I'm not going to Kohl's or Target anymore. It's like, no.
I have a question.
Sure.
How often do you recommend that businesses would practice an active threat drill? So say they go through training with you, you know, you said you walk them through all these different things.
Yep.
What is a reasonable, you know, number of times per year that a business should practice to make sure that you keep up on your skills?
Yep. Good question. Well, like I said, when I go in there, we'll do, you know, usually groups of people, because I'm not going to have a mass evacuation of everybody. Usually do groups of people and run the drills 3 times. It doesn't take that long. I mean, it's almost like a fire drill from school. You know, how long does it take to evacuate the building? So if you're doing groups of 20 or 30 people, you know, we blow a whistle. That's how they know when they're supposed to leave. So you blow a whistle, the group of 20 heads for their exits, they get outside, then we come back and we do a debrief. So that whole thing only takes like 10 minutes per drill, per group of 10 to 20 people, okay? Once I've done that one time, people tend to remember. So it's not like, oh, I forgot how to get out of my building, or I forgot that drill that we did. I would say, like, if I came in, walked everybody through the explanation, did the training, I would say they're good for a year. Then I don't need to come back necessarily and walk them through the drills. That's something the supervisors and managers can do at the organization. But I would say probably once a year would be good, and not necessarily a facilitated training. Like I said, you know, once you got the basics down, you got the PowerPoints, you got the information, people have talked about it, they've gone through the training, you know, just refresher drills maybe once a year, kind of like schools do with fire drills. They do like 2 fire drills a year. Kids don't need to go through 10 fire drills a year. They know how to get out of their school once they've done it a couple of times. And it's the same concept with this kind of stuff. Once you know where to go to get out, or where to hide, or how to build a barricade and shelter in place, you know, you kind of know how to do it. The problem that I see is, like I said in the beginning, when I go into some place, they have no idea what to do. They don't know to, you know, I went into one place and they said, well, we're going to take down the shooter and then carry the gun out to the police. And I said, don't do that. You're going to get shot. I said, don't walk out of the building when the cops are there from a 911 call and you're the guy holding the gun in your hand saying, hey, don't shoot, you know. And the other thing is, people don't realize they got stuff on their desk that they can use to defend themselves. I mean, how many of you don't have a pair of scissors in your desk or within? Yeah, there you go. Look at that, Victoria. You're all ready. You're ready for the home invasion. You're ready for the workplace violence. Yep, Melissa, there you go. And that's all you need. You don't need 20 things. You don't need to run out to your car and get your pepper spray. I mean, just grab a pair of scissors. Just grab something. Yeah, there you go. Oh, look at that.
My kid is all about this. She's 19 years old and she and her friends are so much more on top of these things. And this is one she gifted to me. I thought, well, I don't even feel comfortable carrying this. I'm going to hurt myself. But if I were to go somewhere that I probably felt a little more questionable since I'm in my home office, I'm okay right now.
Yeah, like McDonald's, you know, or take it with you.
Or Chipotle, apparently.
Or I didn't mean to pick on Chipotle. I'm just saying any fast food place. But
Sure.
Anna, your daughter is absolutely right. I mean, what if she's out with a couple of her friends and they're walking down the street and somebody comes out of the bushes, or they come up behind her? People, here's the thing that is also a key point for you folks to remember, is somebody that has a knife or a gun is not expecting the other person to have anything. They're expecting you to do exactly what they say because they're brandishing a gun. Okay. But if they come up behind, like Anna, and somebody comes up behind your daughter or something, they're expecting her to do what they say. And that's not a good thing. I mean, you don't want to get in the van, you don't want to, that's, you're not coming back if you get in the van or you get in the car. Okay. But if she has that and she turns around, and the other thing is you don't have to kill the other person. You just have to surprise them. One strike with that you showed, Anna, one strike with that to the face, neck, shoulders, and then she runs, her and her friend run, they got themselves out of the incident. Attackers don't usually tend to chase people hundreds and hundreds of yards. I mean, that's not the method of operation. They want to grab and go. And if they grab and somebody fights back in some way, that'll be the end of it. They'll leave, and my daughters used to carry something like that as well. They were like, hey dad, somebody comes up to grab me, I'm pretty tough in a life or death situation, I'm gonna poke at them with this, that. They had those safety cats. I think my one daughter still has the safety cat in her backpack, and she says, couple jabs with the safety cat in the face and I'm running. And that's all you need to do. You don't need to stand there and fight for 10 minutes. Okay. So that's very good, Anna. I'm glad your daughter and her friends are aware, because so many young women are not. They're not aware. They have no idea what to do. They just panic and freeze. And that's what you don't want to do. Okay.
Mike, we have a question in our chat. We have a couple guest attendees on with us today that work in assisted living nursing home facilities. So there's a question: do you have any advice or recommendations for those that work in the assisted living or nursing home fields?
Such as what? Like,
I think with the active threats,
does anybody want to clarify that question a little more or not? I mean, I would get out, I mean, that again, that would be the thing, how do you get out of the out of the building?
is there a strategy when the residents wouldn't be able to leave on their own, or you wouldn't be able to get them out quickly?
Yeah, if someone has a disability, it's obviously going to be hard for them to get out. I don't have any major recommendation for that. I do not. But I can tell you this, that I'm trying to think in my mind here. I personally don't recall a major incident where a nursing home was attacked. Okay. I mean, it might have occurred. It might have occurred somewhere. I try and keep on top of this stuff, but I don't recall that. So, I mean, it could happen. Usually hospitals, nursing homes, and places like that are not the places, but I do know of a couple hospitals where people have gotten injured because somebody wigged out and stuff like that. Part of it is the target place. It's like, where are you? Movie theaters, schools, shopping malls, large events, sporting events. Those tend to be more targeted areas than other places. Although you could have a quick trip gas station get robbed, or parking garage and things like that. So you have different levels of stuff. I like the idea of knowing how to get out, knowing how to escape, how to get away from the situation, and having something on your person or near yourself, so that if somebody's on top of you or close to you, you have a way to fight back and get out of the situation. Okay.
I'm gonna add.
Probably barricading in the room would be the best for the assisted living. You know, if you and somebody else are in an assisted living place, you know, shutting that door, barricading it, and just sheltering in place, you know, kind of like the schools do, that would probably be the best situation. Everybody just get into a room, because you're not going to be able to run out with the wheelchair. But barricading in the room and sheltering in place would probably be your best bet in the nursing home situation.
And I think too, because I work in assisted living as well, like Nikita does too.
Okay.
I think for the biggest thing would be not necessarily our residents, because our safety is number one.
Right.
But like you mentioned earlier, it's the disgruntled family member who may
Yep.
not have liked the answer to a situation, or they're not able to cope well, or they have some other things going on. So again, you know, we train our front desk, our team, to be aware and alert, like you mentioned, the front door. You know,
Yes.
who's coming in and going out of the front door, what kind of conversations have already had, lock that front door if we need to protect our residents here,
Mhm.
you know, from again, an outside, whether it's a team member, a disgruntled team member, like you mentioned too. That's just an example, a couple examples, but just what you already spoke about, watching that front door, where the cameras are, how things are, and people knowing who's coming and going. And then training our staff where they're exiting and how we're gonna do all that.
Victoria, let me ask you this: the front door, is that just open, so like I could just go there and walk right in?
Yeah, it would be open during business hours. So from 8 a.m. to 7, Monday through Friday, when someone's at the front desk, they have to be at the front desk. And then on the weekends from 11 to 5. So that's when, but at the same time, that's pre-COVID too.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of having the receptionist be able to see who's at the front door and be able to kind of buzz them in, you know, have an
Yep.
electronic lock so they can be buzzed in rather than just be able to freely walk in.
Yep. It is open during free time, you know, but
Yeah.
someone's always there. And again, they're probably 30 feet away from the door.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what's happening in our society today is a lot of people are under high stress for a variety of reasons. And what I'm seeing is a big uptick, not necessarily in mass, you know, shootings and things like that, but I'm seeing a mass uptick in smaller incidents. Like I mentioned, you know, people flipping out at the fast food place, people, you know, getting angry at your place, your assisted living place. I mean, people are just on edge. I mean, they're just mad at everything, you know. And I tell my wife and my kids, I'm like, don't upset people. Just be nice to everybody, you know. Just be cool, you know. You don't get your food on time, it's like, hey, that's fine, you know. Don't start throwing stuff around and don't condone it, you know. Just try and maintain a low key. The same thing with employees that get terminated or let go. Don't like laugh at them or make any snide comments or embarrass them. Try and be helpful. Try and say, hey, you know, sorry this job didn't work out, you know, maybe there's another option for you here, you know, did you look at this? I mean, even give them a list of things that they can look into. You know, I'm dealing with some manufacturing places right now, and they're like, well, how am I going to help somebody I'm firing? And I'm like, give them resources, tell them to go to the career center, tell them to go here, say, hey, I'm sorry this didn't work out at this place, but there's other jobs out there for you, and here are some options to look into. Give them some website things. There's nothing wrong with a person giving somebody websites to look at for potential jobs, or to give them ideas on how they might find another job. You know, that's not illegal to do. But what you don't want is them saying, hey, I'm going to come back and get you tomorrow or something like that. That's what you want to avoid. You don't want to leave that in their mind that you are the one that made them angry. You know, you want to be the helpful, apologetic, nice, you know. I mean, somebody loses a job, even if they didn't like the job, it's very stressful. So you, your HR staff, your team doesn't need to add to that stress. You need to de-escalate that stress any way you can. And by apologizing and offering to be as helpful as you can, that goes a long way in de-escalation.
I have a question for you.
Victoria,
Yeah.
may I ask, we only have 5 minutes left. So I would like to pause on that, and to give some time for announcements, and then we could ask some questions afterward if Mike has a couple minutes to stay on.
Yes, I'll stay on as long as you like. If you folks have other questions, I'll be on here. I want to answer all your questions.
Okay, super. I just want to thank you, Dr. Mike, for being with us today. That was just a fantastic amount of information, and I know that people will be able to connect with you. The information about connecting directly with you will be available along with the video link that we share.
Thank you.
Thank you.